So Paul has been to Corinth from the first reading that Dick read for us this morning, and now he knows he's going to return. And when he returns, he's asking that they be ready, because he's let them know already that there are people who are being imprisoned in Jerusalem, people who are following Jesus, people of what they might have called the Way, or what was starting to be known as this group of Christians, people following Christ. And so when Paul comes, he reminds them that he also went to Galatia, and when he went there, they had a nice collection of money for him that he could take back to Jerusalem and support the people who are following Jesus, who had been imprisoned because they were following Jesus. Now, Paul knows this situation very well, because Paul previously was known as Saul, and he was the one rounding up people who were following Jesus and taking them to Jerusalem and imprisoning them. So he knows well the plight of what is happening there, but now he writes to the church in Corinth with what seems very simple instructions. Just get ready. You know I'm coming. You know I'm going to need an offering, so let's just do this. Start collecting it now. Start setting aside what you have so that when I come, you are ready to present it to me. Another place when Paul's talking about this, he says, get ready so then when it comes, it doesn't feel like extortion, that I'm there just trying to get money out of you and get money out of you. Instead, make a plan. That's a part of our life of generosity, is deciding that we have a plan, that we're going to do something with the resources that we have at our disposal. And Paul says to them, take something of the first part of the week and set it aside. Don't wait till you get to the end and say, ooh, what do I have left over? No, take of what you know you can set aside right now. Do that every week so that the saints in Jerusalem can be cared for when I come. And then Paul throws this little bit in, just in case you're worried about me, some of you can come along to protect all the money that we're going to take, just so you know that everything is going to be handled the way it is. Well, there's something about generosity that way that Paul lays out these really basic principles, that there's something about our life of generosity that's easier when we set a plan. That's part of why we invite people to do things like make pledges or intentions of giving as a part of their life in the church, because we know that there's something about that. Now, that works, of course, on the strictly financial level, but we also know that when we make that plan and that we live into it, that something happens within ourselves as well, that something stirs in our own spirits and our own souls that feels like we've done something about making our life of generosity important. We've done it right from the front, right from the front part of our resources and what we receive, and that somehow creates a new aspect within us. Jesus brings this up when he's talking with his disciples, and he's talking to them about God's kingdom and how that works. And really, our life of generosity plays into that as well. So he says to the people that, one, they should stop worrying. Now, I know that Jesus is talking about something, 2,000 or so years ago, and he's talking to the people, and apparently they were worried about a lot of stuff. I'm not really sure if that's true today, so I just want to ask, anybody here over this last month have a worry-free month? Nobody worry about anything this last month? Okay, so apparently Jesus is still speaking to us today. Apparently there are still times when we find that we worry about things. This might be a universal truth of the human condition, but Jesus comes to us and wants us to understand that life of worry he knows is going to be there, but maybe we realize in the midst of that we try to focus ourselves not on the things that bring us worry, but sometimes the things that can reduce that worry in us and maybe even in the people around us. So Jesus starts talking to them about these words. He talks about, the lilies of the field, how well they're clothed, and God's able to care for them. And if God's able to care for a couple of flowers who might even get tossed into the oven to be used for fuel the next day, how much more would God care for us? But we have to be the people who take some steps to make that happen. For he says to us, Don't worry about God's kingdom. God is ready to give that to you. You just have to seek it. If you make that a focus of your life, do not worry about whether or not God will provide it, because God will. God is attempting to bring it to you now. Just do something that allows you to feel God's kingdom around you. And then he has that beautiful statement at the end of talking to the people about this, where he says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. That is, you get to choose where your heart will be. And the way you go about choosing it is realizing that the treasure that you have, and in our world today, I would say that for most people, their deep treasures include, one, their financial resources, and two, their time and what they have to give. And those two resources definitively become what people treasure. And so look at where your finances are. Look at where your time goes, and you will find the things that also capture your heart. Because where your treasure is, your heart will naturally be there as well. And when I look at that, it helps me understand a little bit about the world. It helps me understand a little bit about people even. Because when Jesus came and he's talking to the people and he's talking to them about worry and says, don't worry about these things, is it actually possible to turn on any news station and not worry? Is it actually possible to be engaged in what's happening in our own country and not worry? Because that's a part of our lives, it seems. And then we start thinking along the way, well, we wouldn't have to worry if everybody would just start thinking right, which translated means like me, but I mean for you, you're also saying like yourself, you know? So we all know that we could all get rid of some worry if people would just start thinking more like we do and not like they do. And I wondered sometimes why it is that we can think so differently. How can we see the exact same pictures and draw different interpretations from it? The reality is, our hearts are in different places. And where our treasure has been, our hearts will follow. So there are people who realize that throughout their lives they have supported something. Maybe they've supported a particular person or an agency or a ministry or maybe even a political party. And where they have put their treasure, they know their heart is going to be there as well. And so they're going to look at the world and interpret things through their heart, where their treasure has led them to be. And we're going to naturally draw different conclusions from that. And so sometimes we realize that we just have to step back. Sometimes we just have to step back and know that when we understand where our neighbor is, particularly the ones who think differently from us, we can understand what it is that has led them into that belief system. So people have put their treasure, either they've contributed to a candidate or they've spent time canvassing, or they simply listen to one particular news station exclusively. They're going to be in one camp because their treasure of their resources and their time is there. And somebody who has contributed to a different political party and watches a different news station, their treasure is there because that's where their time and their resources have been, and they're naturally going to draw different conclusions about the same events. And so what are we to do? Jesus said, seek God's kingdom first. And so sometimes I just have to step away from it all. And I have to wonder, what does it mean? Or where does it mean that I can put my time and my treasure and actually feel like it might make a difference? And I'll tell you, people, that's why I'm committed to a place like Bethany Lutheran Church. That's why my resources are here. That's why my time is here. And it's why I want my heart to be here. Because there are still places where we seek God's kingdom. And part of that is seeking understanding with people that think differently from us, rather than trying to push them away and creating more division. There are actually still places in our world that seek healthy dialogue, that promote unity over division. And that's why I will continue to support a place where dialogue matters, where conversation matters, where understanding matters. Because I truly believe that's where God's kingdom is so important. I truly believe that that's where God is trying to reside, not in either polar opposite, but in the places where people continue to gather in love. And part of my generosity is at a place where I believe that Christianity still matters, where God's love and understanding still matter. And we're listening. Truly listening to somebody else still matters. And I can tell you, it's going to matter next week. I'll talk in Abundantly Bethany a minute about the Super Bowl of Caring, where we're going to talk about raising money to feed people who are hungry. Because when I read in the scriptures, Jesus does not say that you must feed the Jewish people. Jesus does not say, you must feed the Gentile people. Jesus says, you must feed the hungry. And you don't ask if they think like you or not. You only ask, do they need to feel God's kingdom? And to some people, God's kingdom feels like a bowl of soup. And sometimes it feels like a conversation. And sometimes it feels like understanding. And sometimes it feels like somebody actually trying to understand you. People of Bethany Lutheran Church, you have my heart, because my treasure is with you, all of you. And I will continue to listen. And I will continue to proclaim, and I will continue to ask for God's justice to be made known in this place, and God's righteousness to be made known in our hearts, because I truly believe that we still can make a difference if we choose to seek God's kingdom. Seek God's kingdom. And when our hearts are there, then we actually have a chance to make a difference. Amen.